Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast here to make you another cocktail. This week's cocktail is called the Clint Eastwood cocktail. And it is the featured cocktail in today's episode. You might be asking yourself, what does the Clint Eastwood cocktail have to do with Revenge of the Creature from 1955? Well, listen to the podcast and find out. I'm going to start with a shaker of ice. To that, we're going to add whiskey. 2 ounces. 2 ounces of whiskey. Next, 1/8 ounce of bitters. 1/8 of an ounce. Okay. About right. 1/8 ounce of herbal liqueur. I am using Jägermeister. A 1/4 ounce simple syrup. This drink appears to be mostly whiskey. Makes sense, I guess. It is Clint Eastwood. Then we shake. Take our cocktail glass. Strain our cocktail in there. There you have it, boys and girls, the Clint Eastwood. Yep. Very, very whiskey forward. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the podcast. See ya.
Summer swimsuit fashion choices. We all make them. In this week's episode of the Scary Spirits podcast, Revenge of the Creature, we witness the return of the white swimsuit. Prominently featured in The Creature from the Black Lagoon, the white swimsuit, especially when sported by a very attractive woman, is just as effective in the sequel as it was in the original at attracting the attention and undying affection of the creature. Now, I don't know if you'll be swimming in any tributaries in the Amazon anytime soon, but who knows how many creatures are really out there somewhere. Maybe steer clear of the white swimsuit this summer, just to be safe. Cheers!
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and/or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hi, I'm Greg.
Hey, I'm Karen.
And welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different but highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you, Greg?
I'm okay. I'm okay. Thank you for asking.
It's what we do. Just okay, huh?
Just okay, yeah.
Well, I'm about to lift your mood then. You're going to spend some time with me.
That's a challenge.
That's like crickets. Can you put crickets in there if that's sound effect?
That sounds like a challenge.
For you or me?
Either or, Karen, either or. All right, Karen, I believe this film was my choice. Was it not?
Yes, this was your choice. You want to tell everyone what you picked for this week?
Absolutely. The film I have chosen is Revenge of the Creature from 1955.
Dun, dun, dun. Is there a reason you chose this picture?
You mean besides it's my favorite Universal monster?
Well, that would be enough.
This episode comes out on May 17th, Karen. Revenge of the Creature was released on May 13th.
Okay.
So we're celebrating the anniversary.
As we often do.
Yes. So happy 68th anniversary, Revenge of the Creature.
Way to hang in there.
Karen, I also have a cocktail.
Excellent. What's that?
It is called the Clint Eastwood cocktail.
That's intriguing.
I know, right?
First, tell us how to make it.
So we're going to take 2 ounces of rye whiskey, 1/8 ounce of bitters, 1/8 ounce of herbal liqueur. I use Jägermeister. 1/4 ounce of simple syrup, and an orange peel if you want to get fancy. Combine all those ingredients in a mixing glass with ice and strain into a cocktail glass. Squeeze the orange peel atop the drink and float peel on top. The Clint Eastwood cocktail. It's very whiskey.
It's very strong. You know, bitters smells like Ambisol. Remember the stuff that you put on your teeth when your teeth hurt?
No, Karen. No, I did not. No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, my wisdom teeth came in college.
Mm-hmm.
It was very painful. And there's a tooth numbing liquid you can put on your teeth. And that's what it smells like to me. I can't get past it.
Mine were removed before they came in. So I did not experience that, Karen. I'm sorry.
No,
I could not
that's
share in
terrible.
that experience with you.
You're lucky. But why, pray tell, Greg, did you pick a drink called the Clint Eastwood for this movie?
So you're wondering why I would pick a drink called the Clint Eastwood cocktail for the film Revenge of the Creature?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm wondering.
Well, Karen, I'm sure as everyone knows, Revenge of the Creature was Clint Eastwood's first feature film, although he is uncredited and he's only in it for like 30 seconds.
And I wouldn't even have made a note of him. Well, no, I knew it was him.
Okay.
But his part, I wouldn't even have mentioned if it wasn't
speak.
Clint.
He does have lines.
Yeah, he does have lines, and he's fine.
He's fine.
You know.
He's a little comedic relief there.
Yep.
So that is why I chose that cocktail, which is giving me a headache cocktail already.
It's a Clint Eastwood cocktail. I can see why. It's a tough.
Yeah. All
stringent,
I need is my backwoods smoke.
Yeah. It is very reminiscent of that. It's a tough one. But if you like whiskey, I think you'll like it a lot.
Yes. Should we give
It's like Manhattan, kind of, right? Is that what it is? Or I confused that one with another one.
It's based on a Manhattan. Yeah. Should we give our listeners time to make their own, Karen?
Absolutely.
Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
Karen, might you have a brief synopsis for us?
Of course.
Thank goodness. Go on, Karen. Tell me a story.
In a tributary of the Amazon, a monster, half man, half fish, is captured and placed in a reservoir in a Florida national park to be observed by scientists.
Thank you, Karen, for that brief synopsis. We are a match.
And I already have a question.
Okay.
Do you know what a tributary is?
Tributary, that's a smaller river that flows into a larger river.
Yes, exactly.
I just pulled that right off the top of my head.
There you go. Starting off with a bang.
And actually, the St. John's River played the part of the Amazon. in this film in Florida.
In
St.
Florida.
John's River in Florida, yes. Which I bring up here shortly.
Can't wait.
All right, are you ready to get into it, Karen? Or anything else we need to cover?
No, let's go.
Did you watch this on Amazon Prime, Karen?
I did.
I did as well. No warnings.
Just rated 13 plus.
Rated 13 plus.
Smoking should be a warning.
It should be. Film begins. We have credits. I really tried to find it in 3D, Karen, but I couldn't. Not sure it would have mattered after watching it, but whatever. And during the credits, they thank the facility Marineland, Florida, for their assistance. Yes, that's where all the aquarium shit was filmed. Then we have words to read, Karen, other than the credits. It says, a tributary of the upper Amazon. So I believe that's where we are. And I wrote, it looks a lot like Florida, Karen, with lots of Spanish moss hanging off the trees, which isn't really moss, right, Karen?
It's not. But I don't spend a lot of time in Florida, so. But it looked very similar to where they were in the last movie.
It did. And the ship looked very similar, too, the boat. And the boat is called the Rita, too. Is that the same name as the other one? Do you remember?
The other one was the Rita.
Oh, so this is the Rita, too.
So it's a nice connection.
Yeah. It is the same captain.
Yes, it still looks like Bluto from Popeye to me, but.
And there's some men looking for the creature. Apparently a guy named Joe and a guy named George looking for the creature, want to bring it back to Florida, put it in some aquarium and sell tickets.
They're being paid to do it. So they're not scientists necessarily. They're capturers, adventurers or something. Hunters. Yeah.
Although Joe seems pretty handy as far as he seems to know what he's doing. Then the ship captain, Lucas, tells George and Joe about his previous search for the creature the year prior, as they're under the boat.
Well, they stop
drinking and smoking,
and anchor, and they're going to have dinner.
The 5 people ended up dead. I wrote they're smoking Marlboros and cigars and drinking whiskey. And George begins to wonder if really they should be there. Is it really worth risking their lives?
Joe's all, pshaw, we can do it. I can do anything.
Yeah, Joe's a very confident man.
Yes, he is. The captain wants to know why this creature has survived so long. And George goes off on sometimes species get isolated in time, and if the conditions are right, it reproduces itself without change. Skipping a chapter of evolution way back there must have been some link between marine and terrestrial life. And the captain goes, I just think he's stronger than man and evolution. It's the force of a demon driving it through millions of centuries. It does not surrender easily to weaklings like you and me, which it kind of does in a few minutes, but whatever.
So the next day they travel to the Black Lagoon, Karen. They drop anchor and we see the creature watching them. Joe puts on his diving suit.
Which is quite the suit.
It is. Looks like he's deep sea diving or some shit.
Yeah, it's
I don't think he needs all that shit, but whatever.
Doesn't look that deep.
He's just going in to put up an underwater fence, right? To trap, if the creature is there, to trap it in.
In the lagoon, yes.
Yeah. And then while Joe's down there, the creature attacks him.
But the creature's watching him for a while, and it looks like he waves at Joe. You see him do that a couple times with his hand. He like waves, and then he goes after him.
I think he's treading water, Karen.
I guess, but it looked kind of funny.
Creature grabs.
Like, yoo-hoo! Over here.
Creature grabs Joe's air hose and
he attacks him, and they roll around in the water for a while. And then it shows that he's kind of got a little bit of smarts in him because he goes for the air hose and he's trying to pull it out.
And George shoots at it from the boat, and the men on the boat pull Joe in. Next, we see lots of tin cans in the lagoon, Karen.
I thought they were boxes. I didn't know what they were.
I don't know. It looks like gas cans or something. But apparently they put explosives in the lagoon, just like they did last time, Karen, I think, didn't they?
Didn't they use powder poison or something?
Yeah, that's right. They did. But this time
I was wondering how they could go in the water with the poison, and it didn't affect them, and it affected all the fish and everything.
This time they blow up the lagoon. Lots of dead fish rise to the surface.
Well, no, it's supposed to stun anything in the water. is how it's laid out. It's just supposed to stun the fish, but I'm pretty sure they're dead.
Okay, well, all the fish rise to the surface.
They do.
And then eventually the creature does too.
Yeah, they're looking for him with binoculars.
He's pretty stunned. If he's stunned.
Yeah.
Because he ain't moving.
He's laying face down in the water.
Then we cut to WNTV, Karen. I wonder what that stands for. Anything you think? Probably nothing. News flash about the creature. Talk about how it's been captured and it can only survive outside the water for a few minutes. It's the biggest discovery since the atomic bomb, it says. Don't they, Karen? Something like that.
And they do say it's been in a coma since it was captured.
Yeah, so that was a hell of a shock.
In an isolated Amazon lagoon.
Yeah, because they've traveled all the way from the Amazon with the creature.
Yes.
And still in a coma. Then we cut to a university. And we see a monkey painting a picture.
Chimp.
I believe his name is Neil. And we meet Professor Clint Ferguson. And apparently he's looking for the difference between the intelligence of an ape and a human being. And then we meet Lab Tech Jennings, played by Clint Eastwood. He says there's a rat missing from the cage. For some reason, they're keeping rats in the same cage as a cat.
Well, they're trying to figure out, according to the professor, if a cat is well fed, it won't eat the rats.
Okay.
But I can tell you from experience, they may not eat the mouse.
They'll kill it, though.
But they'll kill it.
Yeah.
So instinct is very persistent. But yes, Lab Tech Jennings says, I think the cat ate the rat. So he's saying your theory is disproved and a cat eating an entire rat would be a lot for a cat.
Yes. But then he reaches in his pocket, Karen, and he finds the missing rat.
How'd you get in there?
And I wrote there's lots of blonde jokes in this
There
film
are
so far. Yeah. On the boat in the Amazon, they talk about one of them says, what I wouldn't give for a beer. And the other one says, or a tall blonde or something.
A short blonde.
And then blonde. And someone says something in the lab about finding a natural blonde.
How rare that would be. Yes.
Yes. And Professor Ferguson, apparently he's head of the Department of Animal Psychology at whatever university they're at. But a man rushes in and tells him, he's got the newspaper, tells him all about, hey, they have the creature down at Ocean Harbor.
He says they captured that Devonian relic that the doctor had reported about last year. I guess that's how you say it. So do you want to know what period? The Devonian period, this is funny, is an interval of the Paleozoic era that follows the Silurian period and precedes the Carboniferous period.
Well, duh.
But it spans between 419.2 million and 358.9 million years ago. But the reason they picked that period is it's known as the age of the fishes.
Is that when supposedly fishes started coming on land?
Well, the diverse and
evolving?
abundant types of creatures that swam in the seas. So it was mostly fish at that time.
Okay. Thank you.
That's
Dr.
why they
Karen.
picked it. I know you were dying to know that. You
Yeah.
probably already knew. But who's the guy that ran in? Was it a reporter?
I don't know. Or some guy from the school, and he tells him that it's the greatest scientific find since the Peking Man. Got any information about the Peking Man, Karen?
I do not.
Okay.
But it's just up his alley. This is what they want to study the creature. This is pretty much Dr. Ferguson's specialty. So he should go down there.
And apparently they all know him. They'll all know your work. You should just go down there. Then we have words to read. Ocean Harbor, Florida. So I guess he goes.
He gets a leave of absence from the dean and he goes down there.
And see Joe and George bringing in the creature. And it appears to be still unconscious, I wrote.
Yes.
But they float it out and onto a block and tackle is all I could think of, Karen, is what to call it.
A stretcher.
Stretcher on a block and tackle and pull it out of the water and put it into like a smaller, like casket size vessel filled with water. Creature's in a coma. And they bring it to the park.
Yeah. Has been since they captured him.
Bring him to the park and Joe's down in the aquarium or pool, whatever, with him. And he's trying to revive it, kind of like you do a bass. when you catch a bass, Karen. You run it through the water so get
Or your
water over its
goldfish isn't doing
gills.
so well. So yeah, it's a holding tank, basically. It's pretty big, but the water's only, waist level?
Yeah,
Maybe
because
a
he's
little
walking.
higher than that. He's walking around with the creature, pulling the creature through the water, trying to revive it.
Yeah, trying to get the water over its gills so that, it gets oxygen or whatever. And
Well, we don't find that out until we talk to Miss Helen Dobson.
that's true. Well, if the press are there taking pictures. Then one of the press people comes up and says, I'm here with Helen Dobson, one of the prettiest girls I've ever had the pleasure of interviewing.
They mention that a lot about Miss Helen Dobson, that she's very pretty. I said, does she have any other qualifications? Well, she does.
She is.
Well, yeah, but we didn't know that. So we
Yeah.
find out she's an ichthyologist,
Studying for her master's.
which is the study of fish, which is why she's there. And she explains to the reporter why Joe is walking the creature around the holding tank.
Yes, forcing water over its gills. So Joe walks the creature for about 2 hours, and suddenly it begins to move.
They're all waiting, all the reporters, and they're all smoking and getting anxious.
And here I wrote it's a nice effect with the bladder and the neck of the creature, how it bulges and things. They did that in the last film too. I made a note, and then the creature swims away from Joe. And Joe,
Well, he starts slowly. He moves his arm, and then you see him, and he said, okay, Joe needs to get out because he can feel that he's starting to come around.
So Joe exits the tank. Creature swims around and tries to climb out of the tank.
He realizes he's trapped. He keeps running into walls as he's swimming. So then he knows.
Joe tries to stop it, and the creature pulls Joe back down into the tank. A couple other men jump in to save Joe, and the creature pulls them under the water. And then the men above throw a net over the creature, and then Joe jumps in and saves the other 2 men.
Yes. So the creature's now covered in a net and ropes.
Yes. And then they move the creature to its permanent tank while it's still in its net, and they shackle it to the floor of the tank with a chain. And here I wrote, if his claws are sharp enough to cut up a person, why can't he just cut through the net, Karen?
I think his arms are pinned down to his sides with the ropes.
With the ropes? Yeah, because
Yeah.
I remember he cut through the net with no problem in the first film.
Yeah, he's hampered.
And of course, they release the net, and the creature tries to break free of the chains. Breaking the chains, as Don Dokken would say, Karen.
Yes, he would. He keeps trying to swim away. And I was wondering, doesn't he he needs air from outside sometimes, doesn't he? Or does he?
No.
Oh, okay. Because he
That's why he
can
has
get his head
gills.
but he can get his head out of the water.
Yeah, and when he's out of the water, he's like a fish out of water. His mouth, opens and closes like he's trying to gasp for air as he gets
Yeah, you're right. He has
from his
gills. It's not like a frog or something,
Right.
or even a dolphin or whatever.
So then we see all the tourists coming to see the gill man. And the tourists watch as they feed the dolphins, and they say, we're going to be feeding the creature soon.
It's a big crowd.
So they go and feed the creature.
It's a very cloudy tank that
Sometimes
he's in.
it does look that way.
And they do say he doesn't eat the fish around him.
No, the ones that are swimming around him. So they give him dead ones in a
Basket.
little picnic basket.
Yeah, and he sits down on the anchor and eats them. It's funny.
So then we see Professor Ferguson and Helen. They meet up outside the tank, and apparently Helen's familiar with Dr. Ferguson's work. And they watch the creature, and I wrote immediate love connection ? But the professor is filming with his 8mm camera, probably is what it is. Then they bring the creature, fish in a cage. He eats them. Professor Ferguson asks Helen to dinner, and they learn that apparently they're staying at the same motel, Karen.
Yes, they are. Isn't that convenient?
Yes. But then Joe comes along. Professor Ferguson tries to avoid him. And then Joe asks Helen out for dinner as well. And I wrote, apparently Joe believes he is quite the ladies' man.
Joe's a confident man.
He is.
It's kind of the same setup as the last movie.
Kind of.
2 men after the woman in the white swimsuit.
Yes, only this time it's a blonde. It was a brunette last time.
It was.
Next, we're at the dolphin show at the aquarium there, and We learn that Helen has a German Shepherd named Chris, which is an interesting name for a dog, I thought.
Perfect timing.
Yes.
I think
he agrees.
I think we've talked about German Shepherds before, but we'll go through this quickly, see if you remember anything. If you had to guess what they rank in intelligence.
I don't remember these trivial things, Karen. I'm going to say 5.
3.
I almost said 3.
They're number 3.
That was my first instinct, was to say 3.
And they are the second most popular dog in the United States. But yeah, Chris is an unusual name for a dog. But she just met him a couple weeks ago. So the dog just showed up, I think.
Then Joe arrives, and they talk about the intelligence of different animals, specifically dolphins and dogs, and they begin to wonder how smart the creature is. And I guess that's what the professor aims to find out, Karen.
Yes, he does.
So they put a speaker in the tank with the creature so that they can try to give it commands. Helen and the professor go into the tank. They're going to try to teach it to stop.
And I just want to take a moment here to say that the men's swimsuits are skimpier than the women's in this one, but they're not Speedos.
No, not quite. Although Joe's is very close. So they give the creature food, and Helen yells stop as Professor Ferguson hits it with a underwater cattle prod, basically, is what it is.
So how can he take that in the water?
I don't know, Karen. It's like a shock stick. They use those on water, so it's different than a cattle prod.
They called it a bull prod.
Yeah, they did. But I know they use it in the oceans and stuff on sharks.
Sharks to keep them away.
Yeah, shock stick is what they call it. And I wrote the creature learns quickly not to be shocked.
Yes, when she says stop, the professor shocks him. So then he learns when she says stop not to go near the food, which was mean, I thought, but whatever.
And we see the creature trying to break the chains again, Karen.
He's pissed.
Next, we see Helen in her dinner dress at the aquarium watching
her little
the creature.
Black dress. It's after hours, I guess, because no one else is there.
And Helen and the creature make eye contact, staring at each other through the window.
They have a look.
Professor Ferguson arrives and they leave for dinner. Cut to the next day, I guess, and Joe is injecting a fish with chemicals or something, and they're going to feed it to the creature to knock its ass out.
Yeah, they're drugging it.
Creature eats the fish, falls to the bottom of the tank, or sinks. I guess it doesn't fall. It sinks to the bottom of the tank. Professor Ferguson and Joe enter, and they attach sensors to the creature. And I guess they're basically doing an EKG and measuring brain waves or whatever.
Yeah, but
although they don't attach one to his head.
No, they don't.
They attach it to
2 wrists and his chest.
Yeah. So whatever. And again, Helen explains all about the electrical pulses of the brain. Next, we see Helen making notes on her clipboard there.
In the lab with boiling water. But all the things were clear in that lab.
The Gill Man says physical examination X9746. Lots of words there.
Well, he has alligator skin, thick plates, green.
Yep. Head is massive and with multi-gill plates. Then we have a short montage
where they're taking blood from a shark. So they're basically comparing the Gill Man, doing all these tests and comparing him to fish or to human. And he's much closer to human than he is to
fish.
The
professor can hold the test tube up.
Yep.
And can tell exactly what kind of blood that.
Less than 10% of corpuscles in there. Impressive, people.
More like a human than a fish. It does not match the fish sample at all.
That's what he keeps saying. Every test just misses being human.
Next, we see the professor and Helen at the beach, relaxing, having a day off to be like normal people, Karen.
Yes.
And Helen says most of her undergrad friends are married and have kids now. She doesn't know if that's what she wants or not.
She doesn't even know why she started all this science stuff.
And luckily, the professor says he doesn't have to decide such things being a man.
Yes, he doesn't have to make any decisions. Just we women folk do, which is true.
About whether to have a family and all that,
Yeah, because it doesn't matter to him. He gets to do whatever he wants anyway.
But they kiss. Apparently,
yes, they do.
She's aroused.
by that He-Man talk.
Yeah. Then Chris the dog comes in and shakes water on him. All
Yes, hilarity ensues.
right. Next, we see Helen at the aquarium again, watching the creature. Professor arrives again.
It's kind of a cool scene because as she walks by, there's small observation windows, basically head height. And as she walks by each one, he kind of follows her. He watches her moving between each one or along the whole parade of windows.
Professor Ferguson tells Helen he doesn't want her to go into the tank anymore. Helen rebuffs him.
But Helen also talks about how she pities the creature because he's so alone and the only one of his kind in a world. He's an orphan of time. She's feeling empathy for the creature. And then the professor tries to tell her she can't go in the pool anymore, into the tank. It's too dangerous. Now that he cares about her, she can't go in there anymore.
Hello, boys and girls. Thanks for listening to the Scary Spirits podcast. Karen and I really have a great time putting these episodes together. If you enjoy what you hear, please consider taking the time to leave a review wherever you listen. Reviews really help independent podcasts find listeners. The more listeners we have, the easier it is for people to find us. Now, back to the show.
Next scene, though, Helen and Professor are in the tank. This time, Helen has a ball on a stick.
Yeah, why would the creature want a ball?
I don't know.
It seems silly to me. And
But
you know exactly what's going to happen.
Creature does grab the ball, and Helen yells stop, and the creature stops. They try again, and this time the creature grabs Helen, and he does not respond to the stop command.
The creature's smart enough is that he keeps backing up, making Helen come further and further towards him. So the creature backs up, Helen comes further because Helen's trying to get his attention with this ball on a string. And he's smart enough to keep backing up so that she gets close enough that he can swim and get her while he's attached to the bottom of the tank. So she comes within the area of his chain length. But I don't even know why he'd want that stupid thing. Fish, I get it. Food, I get. Why would he want a ball?
I don't know. But the
Shiny.
Professor shocks the creature. Creature grabs the professor. Creature pulls the scuba equipment from the professor, so he's got no oxygen. Helen yells stop, and eventually the creature does stop. And Helen and the professor leave the tank.
Helen got too close. It's all Helen's fault. This happens.
Back in the tank, the creature breaks free from its chains. Breaking the chains.
Because he was mad again.
Joe tries to push the creature back into the tank with a big stick.
That just happens to be there.
But he falls in and the creature attacks him. He gone, I wrote. Creature leaves the tank and all the tourists go running.
The
People
creature
running
climbs
for their
out.
lives.
He climbs out and their chaos ensues. And at one point, a mom and a little girl are running. The little girl falls and the mom keeps going.
Well, no, she comes back and
She comes back, but
her.
she did leave her there. Wow.
The creature leaves them alone.
He only wants Helen.
Yeah, creature leaves the aquarium, but on his way, he overturns a car.
Because they're parked too close together. He can't get through. So he pushes it over.
That'd be a hell of a job of parallel parking, wouldn't it?
I know. It was within centimeters.
So he heads to the ocean.
He'd have to do do you ever see the Austin Powers?
Yes.
Where he's trying to turn around his golf cart? That's what it would be like. He moved a centimeter forward, a centimeter back, centimeter forward. That's how you'd have to get out. So yes, he tips over the car and he's going to the ocean. So now I want to know, what kind of water does this creature need?
Correct.
Because
I wondered that when he was in the tank, because I thought that looks like an aquarium.
It's showing sharks and fish that would be in a saltwater tank, but the Amazon is freshwater. And then he goes into the ocean, which is salt water. So, I mean, it's nitpicky, but at the same time, it was kind of like, normally fish can't do that, but he is special. So, but he walks, it was kind of funny because he's walking down the beach in his flippers, which is very difficult to do.
He looks like he's walking in flippers.
But he did a pretty good job.
I thought they were like telling him, walk menacingly like you're a monster. But I don't think you
have to pick your feet way up when you walk in flippers.
Yeah. So next we cut back to the aquarium and they're trying to revive Joe and Professor shakes his head. He gone, just like I said earlier.
All they're doing is putting a mask over his mouth.
Yeah,
they're not giving
oxygen.
CPR.
No.
So
then we have a newspaper montage, Karen. I almost called you Helen.
very, very easy confusion, you know.
And we see headlines from all different newspapers. Prehistoric monster on the loose. Gill man kills guard. Gill man at Norfolk. Gill man reported near Miami. Navy hunting gill man.
Yeah, so it's just the normal chaos that comes from people are seeing him everywhere.
Then we see the news report again. Say the gill man has been reported as far north as Norfolk and as far south as Panama. But experts believe the creature is dead.
Or on its way back to the Amazon.
Next, we see a couple making out in a car, Karen, kissy facing in a convertible, as you do. Policeman comes up and tells them to leave. Hey, you kids, get out of here.
Move along.
So they leave, and as they are, we see the creature climbing out of the water.
And every time most times we see him, there's very dramatic music.
Next, we cut to Helen in the motel taking off her hosiery, Karen.
Well, he's at the motel. When he gets out of the water, he's walking towards her motel.
Apparently, Helen's getting
with
ready
her
for
dog,
bed.
Chris.
With Chris.
And I said, they better not kill the dog.
Yeah, Chris is with her. And we see the creature at the window, but Chris doesn't seem too upset.
No, he whimpers.
He whimpers.
But her front door is not locked.
My dog will be scratching at the window.
Your dog would be running into the bedroom with your wife.
No, he would not. As long as there was a pane of glass, he would be scratching at the window. That's what he does. Anybody comes near the yard, that's what he does.
But she's a single woman alone in the hotel room. Her front door is not locked. The chain's not on it. Her drapes aren't closed. Her doors to the outside patio aren't locked.
Right. She goes,
and she's going to go take a shower.
Here's what I wrote. Here's what I wrote. First, the dog whimpers. Then Helen goes turn off the lights in her room. And I could see the chain wasn't chained behind her. I was like, she doesn't chain the door. And then she goes to the fucking screen doors. We find out what they are. And she opens them. And I'm like, is she going to leave that open to get some night air in as she goes to bed? But no, she closes it. But it's just a fucking screen door.
She didn't lock it.
No, and it swings back and forth. It's like
Yep. It's out to a patio, I think.
Then she goes and gets in the shower. And I wrote, the creature peeps at her as she prepares for a shower.
Yes, he does.
But
that is not good preparation. I mean, I lock all the doors in my house when I'm going to go take a shower.
Creature enters a room. Dog barks and does attack the creature. Cut to the professor in his room, and he hears the dog and noises coming from Helen's room, so he goes to investigate.
We hear Chris bark, and then we hear Chris yelp, and we know. But he walks right in her
apartment. Well, he knocks on the door, and then he walks right in.
Her room, not her apartment. But yeah, he goes right in. She's in the shower.
Yeah, and then he goes to the bathroom door and knocks. Now, if I was in a shower and no one was supposed to be in my room and someone was knocking, I would freak the fuck out.
All she says is, who is it? Like it could be anyone. Who could it be? Hello?
And he asks where Chris is. And she says, well, he should be in the room. But the professor goes out to look for Chris, and Helen comes out and startles him. And here we learn that the professor is leaving tomorrow, but they still have time for a cruise and a dinner and maybe some dancing, Karen.
Yes, he's not leaving till midnight. He says, don't worry, Chris will be back in the morning, probably chased a rabbit.
My next words are, Chris gone.
The dog is dead. Piss me off. That's what I have.
Next day, Helen and the professor on the boat, I guess heading to Jacksonville. She's still worried about Chris, but professor says, oh, he's fine. I'll bet when you come back, he'll be waiting at the door.
And the creature watches them leave.
Yep, swims in the water.
And swims after the boat.
Professor and Helen do a little dance on the boat, and they kissy face. And I wrote, the creature is swimming under the water following the boat. it looked like.
And the boat is going at a fair clip, and the creature looks like just a person swimming underwater. But I guess he's supposed to be swimming extra fast because he keeps up with the boat.
Next, apparently the boat has stalled, Karen.
Yes, it has.
The engine's not running. So the professor and Helen just decide, fuck it, let's go for a swim. And then they do a little synchronized swimming, I wrote here.
Well, they swim like lifeguards. They swim with their heads above the water.
Yes. And they do backstroke too, but
Yeah.
but they're synchronized. They do the same, both of them do the same thing.
Yes, they do.
And then they begin splashing each other. Oh, quit. Stop it. You want to play?
Stop.
Then they sink underwater and kissy face as the creature watches. And the creature goes after him and tries to pull on Helen's leg. She thinks it's the professor.
Getting frisky.
They swim back to the boat and the creature swims underneath them.
Yeah, that's a cool shot, which I think they did in the first one, where she's above him and he's swimming
inverted.
So if she had her face in the water, she would see his face, and he's swimming underneath her, which is, I think it's a cool shot. But he almost gets her, but he doesn't.
Yeah, and he tries to pull himself up on the boat just as it takes off. The engine has been fixed. Next, I guess it's that night in Jacksonville, and Professor and Helen are dancing at a club with some cool jazz music playing.
Yep.
And then they walk out. And
he says, it's hot in here. Let's go outside.
And they talk about love, Karen.
That old excuse.
What is love, Karen? Tell me, what is love?
What's love got to do with it? Or you want to know what love is? You want me to tell you?
Yes, Karen. Then they kissy face some more. The creature creeps up on them.
Yeah, he just happens to know where they are.
So then we're back in the club and everybody's enjoying the jazz music.
They're really into it. The band and the audience.
Creature enters the restaurant.
And who's the first one to see him?
The drummer, of course.
Yes. The drummer would know.
And creature grabs Helen and everybody runs away again. Run for your lives.
Screaming chaos.
Creature jumps in the water with Helen. Professor runs after them and he removes his shoes so that he can jump in the water after them.
But to be fair, which I saw that too, and it kind of made me laugh, but it's much harder.
He left a shirt on, though.
It's much harder to swim in clothes than without them, obviously. So, it is better to take off your shoes.
Well, you made it sound like you should take off your clothes, Karen.
Well, you should, but I don't know how warm the water is.
Okay.
But he's in a hurry, but things like shoes will weigh you down.
Okay, they will. So Helen makes her way to a buoy, but the creature pulls her back into the water, and a police boat arrives. Professor makes his way to the buoy, and the police find the professor clinging to it. They pull him in. Dispatcher sends the police to the waterfront. Another news report, Karen. The Gill Man is loose in Jacksonville, home of Leonard Skinner.
And the whole time, the professor is calling, Helen, Helen. We don't know where she is, if she's underwater, if he's helping her swim, whatever. She seems unconscious, but that's later. So maybe that's from being underwater. I don't know.
But the news report says it is kidnapped Helen, the Gill Man has, and that all citizens are to remain indoors and keep their lights on because apparently the creature cannot stand bright light. I'm not sure how they figured that out, but they did.
No, yeah, that's new news, new information. But a couple of college boys don't listen, do they?
Nope. A couple guys in another convertible. They're not kissy facing though.
No.
Talking about college degrees and how
their damn dads telling them they need college degrees.
Yeah, college degree used to be the same as a high school diploma. You can't get a job without one.
No, a college degree is like the high school diploma used to be. You can't get a job.
Isn't that what I said?
I think you said it backwards, but it doesn't matter.
Whatever. So they're driving along and they find Helen on the beach. They go to investigate. Creature comes up behind them. Creature grabs them and throws them around. That's a pretty good effect, too.
Yeah, they really look like they got the one, especially the first one. It's thrown into a coconut tree or something.
Yeah. I believe they're called coconut palms, Karen.
Oh, okay.
Then the creature picks up Helen and walks away. Now we're back on the police boat. Here on the radio, bodies of 2 men found near St. James Harbor. Professor tells the police, well, let's go there. Cut to the police examining the bodies of the two men, and they see the tracks of the creature walking away. Another news report, Karen. Bodies of two men found. No report of Helen. Her fiance,
That's
the
news
professor,
too.
is aiding in the search
Yeah. So
near Point Diego.
he's known her what?
2 days?
A week? 3 days?
What's
Something
that?
like that?
Well, he said he was going to be there for 2 weeks, and he's leaving
Okay.
that night. So I guess it's 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay. Well, that's long in movie land.
So I guess the police and angry townsfolk are going to sweep the beach because they all gather with their flashlights. They don't have torches.
I think it's all police.
No, but in the background on the road, they're
Oh, that's true.
look
They
like
were-
citizens because
Yeah.
the chief tells them no one is to investigate shrubbery or hiding places unless they're with an armed guard. And I'm like, well, aren't they all fucking cops with guns? But then I thought, oh no, all those people back there on the road are townsfolk.
And they have flashlights and searchlights.
Yes.
Big searchlights.
Professor gets on the radio and tells them all, or the speaker, loudspeaker, whatever, bullhorn, tells them all, don't take any chances. He wants Helen back more than anything, but he doesn't want any of them to be harmed either. Said they are dealing with an intelligent creature and that the creature can't stay out of water for more than a few minutes. Then they all leave and begin searching.
Well, he says he's wily, cruel, and dangerous, and as strong as 10 of you. I like that. He's wily.
Like the coyote, Karen.
Yeah, cruel and dangerous.
Next, the creature drops Helen and goes to the water. I guess he
Well,
needs...
yeah, he says, remember, the creature
Gasping for
has to
air.
be near water. They know that because he can't be out of the water for that long. So they know they have to search near the water.
Remember that song by the Toadies, Karen?
Take me to the river?
No.
Oh,
I come from the water.
no.
I
don't
come
remember.
from the water. Okay. Next, we see the townsfolk driving by with their searchlight. They stop and see Helen and run down to her. Creature comes out of the water. The guy fires his flare gun to alert all the other searchers that they have found the creature.
Which is
in
what they
Helen.
told him to do. Don't approach the
Yes.
creature, just shoot your flare.
Helen wakes up and begins screaming. And apparently the creature does not like the light, in fact. So they were correct, Karen. Light bad, light bad.
Yes, like fire.
Then the police and the professor arrive. Professor tells the men to hold their fire. Look out for the girl. Hold your fire.
That's a good thing to say.
Professor gets on his loud
Megaphone.
speaker or megaphone,
Yeah.
whatever the hell it is, and yells stop at the creature. Trying, because, it's all a Pavlovian dog now and everything it knows.
It's well trained.
Yeah. And eventually it does stop.
And let go of Helen.
And let's go with Helen. And Helen begins, and Professor tells Helen, just walk towards me,
Slowly.
slowly. And then as she is walking towards the professor, the police open fire on the creature. And it appears to swim away, I wrote, but then I wrote, oh, it sinks.
But you don't know. Because didn't they do that to it the last time?
Yeah, they did. The end. Credits. All right, Karen, anything you really enjoyed in this film?
Again, I would say I liked the costume. I thought, and the swimming of the creature was impressive. I like the nods to the previous picture, the consistency of the Rita 2 and even the same, even though it's a trope, the two men going after the girl, she's wearing a white swimsuit, same as the other. So I kind of like that.
Same stunt woman, too. Did all the swimming for both characters, or the stunt man and stunt women were both the same from the first film.
The science was pretty good.
Science!
She used the proper terminology, which is kind of nice. And in the lab, there weren't colored liquids everywhere. They were just clear. Although, you can't look at a test tube and tell what percent of corpuscles are in there. So, but science is always bad, almost always in films. So this, at least they did a little research. They picked the right period for the creature to come from. At least there was a connection there. They tried a little bit, which is nice. They didn't just wing it. Other than that, that's all I got.
Okay.
Did you specifically like anything?
Well, it's the creature of the Black Lagoon. I like the creature. He's my favorite Universal monster. Other than that, I think it's basically just a retelling of the first one, more or less. set in a different
Sort of, but I think I like the first
environment.
one a lot better.
Yeah.
I think the second one, it was funny.
There is lots of, run for your lives. All the tourists, in the aquarium looking at him. But
Well, and they go all the way to the Amazon. They have this long conversation about him, and then they catch him in like 3 minutes.
yeah.
There's, which I get, you don't want to drag that part out, but it just seemed a little quick. And there isn't really much of a story at all. They tried in the first one to talk about a little bit about legend, a little, that he'd been around for a while. I don't know. This one just seemed rushed.
Yeah.
Like, hurry up and make a sequel.
True. So we're already on to what we're disappointed about. That was quick.
It's not bad. It's just this. There's nothing.
It's not bad. I mean,
overly exciting, or there's nothing to point out that I especially enjoyed.
It's a year later.
It's fine.
It's a year after the first one came out,
That's why it feels rushed to me.
And it was originally in 3D, but watching it, I was like thinking, okay.
He doesn't really reach his hand out.
No, he doesn't. There's no real place for it to be an impactful 3D. I didn't think there wasn't nothing coming at you all the time, which, later 3D movies did,
Like I said, some of the shots were so murky when he was supposed to be in the tank that you wouldn't even be really able to see him if you were a tourist. And then other shots were very clear. It was strange. There was consistency was a little rough.
Yeah, for some reason, the guy that played the creature was different. One guy played him on land, one guy played him in water. So I don't know what that's all about, but whatever.
One guy could walk in his flippers better than the other.
It's a better actor. One's a swimmer, one's an actor.
Gotcha, an actor. What's my motivation here as I walk across the beach to the water?
I kind of like Joe better than
the professor
too, but none of them are really likable.
Not even the creature, because he killed the dog. But even Frankenstein has empathy. This creature
didn't kill the little girl.
No, but it doesn't seem to have empathy, which usually they stress in these monsters.
Well, Karen, the dog drew first blood.
Well, we don't know that. If it has alligator skin,
jumped up at the dog attacked him.
That's his job. Let him run out those doors that were wide open.
All right.
If he went in the water, the dog wouldn't be able to follow him underwater.
All right. What kind of cocktail rating can we give this film?
I don't think it's as good as the first one. Do you?
Well, it can't be. It's a sequel.
It's a rule?
It's a rule. Well, unless it's The Empire
Godfather.
Strikes Back.
Well, we went with different ones, but okay.
The Empire Strikes Back.
What did we give the first one? 3? We had to have given it 3. We're not going to give it 4.
We gave it 2.
Oh, okay. Then this one's a 3.
3 cocktails. One worse than the original.
It's an easy watch. There's nothing horrible about it. There's nothing annoying about it.
No.
But there's nothing exceptional about it either. And you get to see Clint Eastwood as a young pup.
Karen, would you like to hear a review from the time period?
Yes, Greg. Why don't you tell us what the Critics' Corner said?
All right, Karen, this review is from Variety, May 16th, 1955. Considering that this is the first 3D picture to reach the public in over a year, it's unfortunate that it is not a better one. Revenge of the Creature, sequel to Universal's Creature from the Black Lagoon, is a routine shocker with obvious appeal for the crowd that goes for the horror pics. It doesn't get much of a boost from the 3D treatment, nor does the picture itself bring out the more spectacular aspects of the deep dimension medium. If credits were to be given in order of performance values, the fellow who plays the scaly monster in the film certainly would rate top billing. Expertly made up, he's the only one who looks and acts believable.
He was good.
In much of footage, the 3D effects are barely noticeable. There are a couple of spots where the depth effect is remarkable, however, and it makes one wonder why the production crew didn't bother to aim for more of the same. Cast performs its routine chores in routine fashion. John Agar plays a young scientist, and Laurie Nelson, his romantically inclined helpmate, who almost dies in the clutches of the monster but is saved at the bell. Miss Nelson is easy on the eyes and looks good in a bathing suit. John Bromfield and Robert B. Williams are okay in smaller parts. Paul Weathermax's editing is okay. And that's the end of it.
Pretty much what we said. There's nothing exceptional, but there's nothing horrible. I didn't notice any times where I thought, oh, well, this was definitely where 3D would have been used. There wasn't anything extended or, distracting at all.
I kept looking for something and nothing ever happened. So I don't think they made good use of the 3D.
Doesn't sound like it.
What'd you think of the Clint Eastwood cocktail, Karen?
It's a little rough for me.
You like whiskey, though.
No, not really. I like bourbon, but I have to mix it with something. When there's no real mixer.
This is mixed.
Not really. It's all alcohol. Like, it's not really mixed with anything. I have a harder time with those.
Yeah, it's a little strong.
It burns. It burns.
Not my favorite. But there's not much to it, so it doesn't take long to drink. Anything we learned today, Karen?
Oh, what did we learn? German Shepherd dogs, tributary, Devonian period. You got a good Dokken reference in there.
Yes, I did.
Clint Eastwood.
All right, Karen. Next film's your choice.
You want to know what I picked?
Yep. What do you got?
House of the Long Shadows from 1983.
And why did you choose that film, Karen?
There's a lot of birthdays the week that comes out.
Go on.
Vincent Price, Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing. And they're all in this movie.
Others. But yeah.
And others, but they're all in this movies.
Oh, they're all in this film?
Yeah.
You have a cocktail for us, Karen?
I do. It's called Poison Punch.
What are we going to need for that?
In a shaker with ice, add 1.5 ounces of gin, 1.5 ounces of apple juice, 1.5 ounces of cranberry juice, 1 ounce of grenadine, and shake well. You can also add a little pinch of edible glitter if you like, just to fancy it up, and pour into your favorite glass. Sounds familiar, but I don't think we've made this thing with gin before. I think we've made it with rum or something. I don't know.
We haven't done many gin drinks, only a couple.
Yeah, so.
Which is the way I like it.
Poison Punch, but it's got a lot of mixers, so hopefully the gin won't be too forward for you.
Any reason you chose that cocktail, Karen? Or
wait and see.
Wait and see.
It should have something to do with the movie, but you know me, sometimes they don't.
It should have something to do?
Yes.
Okay, so apparently you've been doing research. Maybe.
Not very much. Hopefully it has something to do with the movie and you can get all the ingredients.
I have all the ingredients. Personally, I do. I'm sure our friends and listeners will be able to come up with those ingredients pretty easily.
I'm trying to make up for past mistakes.
Now, one of them comedy horror films, apparently, Karen.
Yep, we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Anyone you need to thank this week, Karen?
As always, I want to thank our listener. There's a lot of podcasts out there. Thank you for spending time with us. Who do you need to thank, Greg?
Well, Karen, I need to thank Allie B. Knits for subscribing to our YouTube channel.
Awesome.
And Karen, I also need to thank the great people of the Russian Federation. Lots of downloads from the Russian Federation, Karen.
That's a little scary.
So if you're in the Russian Federation listening to this, drop us a line. Say hi. Tell us where you are in the Russian Federation. And, of course, the band Verse 13 for providing all of the music in the Scary Spirits podcast.
Music makes the podcast better.
Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to the Scary Spirits podcast, where the movies might be iffy, but the drinks are always solid. We would love to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast, or go to our website, scaryspirits.com. And if you want the direct line, email us at info@scaryspirits.com. If you really want to help us out, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And remember, always drink responsibly. See you next week.